Hi YouTube, it's Tuesday and I am bringing you a layout based on case file number 149 from CSI, which is Color Stories Inspiration.ning.com. I think it's CSI Color Stories Inspiration.ning.com. Anyway, I will put a link in the description, and I'm showing you some of the product that I'm using. And they challenged us to use the color palette of like a, let's see, I wrote down like a blue, grayish, midnight blue, a lime green, a light blue, a teal blue, and a bright yellow. And so I pulled product that I thought would go very well with that scheme. And the evidence was to use stars and hearts, plaid or stripes, polka dots, buttons, fringe, swirls, heat, mixed media, trees, twigs, birds and animals, wood and wood grain, and string and yarn. And I managed to use a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 12 of those. So I feel pretty accomplished. And then the testimony was to document a winter event, and then the other one was Paper Wishes, which I don't know what that means. I know there's an old brand called Paper Wishes, but I don't know. Write in a swirl shape, or write 4 wishes, or write inspirational, or they have inspirational words to kick you off. Warm, friendship, and wishes. And this one also has a sketch. So they offer like every second week of the month a sketch to go with the case file. And so it's a little different than the last one that I did. And I've had some fun using these. The paper I'm showing you there is from my 6x6, and it is Glitz Bright Side for the lime color, Iron Orchard Lula 6x6 for a light blue, Basic Grays Fiction for a yellow, and then the large pieces there are Fab Scraps Rustic Trees. And I may use a couple of other small like little scraps from my stash, but I think that pretty much does it. And I went slow on this so I could go through the CSI requirements, and also so that you could see the product and I wouldn't have to go through every little piece of the product. So I've sped it up here, and I'll just kind of go through the layout with you quickly and share how I put it together. So I took a piece of the Fab Scraps, and you see it does have trees on it, so that fit the criteria. Also, it is in a, it has several elements of blue, being light, being the backside is teal there, and then it has little pieces of teal in it. And I'm also just kind of distressing the edges, and I'll use another piece of the same paper and cut it out and use the back side, which is more teal. But in the meantime, I've grabbed my acrylic paint here, and it's called Landscape Green, but it was very lime color to me and seemed to match well with the color scheme. So at first I kind of started to, I thought, well, I'll just smush it on there, and I don't know, it kind of worked and kind of didn't. So I ended up adding more and more until I just liked it. And it looks funny here, but it dries very nice actually. I was afraid it would dry blotchy like that, but it turned out just fine. And so I think I end up adding more, or trying to add some sprinkles, I'm not sure. But I will dry that, add the background piece, and then I'll start on the scallops. I guess I could have cut out some of this drawing time. Oops, sorry, didn't turn off my phone. Let me just do that real quick so you don't have to hear bells and whistles going off. And the ink that I'm using is by Quick Quotes, and it's Powder Puff in Tahiti, which looks very much like a color that matches. It's kind of a cross between light blue and teal, actually. And I'm just securing that down. It wasn't laying completely flat, so I have to play with it a bit. And I was thinking of putting this little butterfly on. And I did think about some of the other elements. I tried to pull in some of these pinks, but I just didn't like them, and so I ended up not using them. And this is a twig or a branch that I thought I might use, but I felt like the pink was cheating on the color scheme, so I left it out, and I couldn't get that twig to work. And I don't remember if I actually put that butterfly down or not, now that I think of it. So the picture that I'm using will be a picture of my daughter London, and she's wearing a purple shirt, and she jumped in the bed with me and was just kind of laying there and looking all cute and sweet with her eyes lifted up at me and her head on my pillow. So I snapped a shot and sent it to her friend Cortland, because I was talking to Cortland at the time. And this is a stamp that is by Stamper's Best that I thought would just add some texture to the page, and I wanted to have a little bit of texture added when I used the scallop punch to punch it out and make the top border. And I kind of, it's very light and faint, but it just kind of adds that extra something. So I like it. I like how it turned out. And I did use one of my EK Success punches there and tried to line it up the best I can. And so at first I was thinking I would do it just like the sketch, where the scallops in the bottom and in the top, and I didn't really like that as much as like layering up the scallops. I thought that would look much better, and it's hard to tell in this video, but that scallop punch actually has an embossed part on the base where the half circle is, or the arch, or the scallop, whatever you want to call it. And so it does have some texture added with that as well. And I thought, well, I'm just going to kind of double layer these, and I couldn't decide if I do it off center or on center where they match perfect, and I finally figured out. And so I'm just going to distress the edges with that ink and layer them up. And at first I layer them backwards, and so I have to pull it off and fix it, but no harm, no foul. It was all distressed anyway, so the fact that I pulled off a little bit of paper on top and it shows through a little bit of the white, I'm perfectly fine with. So let's see, my video froze up on me for some reason. Let me stop it and restart it. Hold on. Okay, I think the narration had trouble keeping up with me. Anyway, so I put that on foam tape to give it a bit of a shadow on the bottom, and then I do go back and add just a little bit more texture on the page with that blue and that stamp. And it's a pretty little flower stamp that is by Stamper's Best, and if you've not bought Stamper's Best before, they're uber cheap, so you can get great stamps for a very low cost. And I think they're all rubber mount. You just need a block, and they cling to acrylic blocks. So I will add a piece to the bottom, and then I'm going to go and add a very thin piece of this midnight blue. It's kind of a grayish blue like the scheme called for, and I add just a very thin strip of that on the paper, and that's from a 6x6, and you can't tell that it's not continuous. You'd really have to look. And I do that at the top as well. And I had fun making this layout. The first one I did for CSI was so challenging. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. This may be too restrictive. I get weird when I'm restricted, and I have to be kind of free and open and just kind of go with the flow. But it was challenging and like, I don't know, interesting enough that I thought, I'm going to give it another go. And I've really actually enjoyed the challenge. So if you're looking to challenge yourself, it's pretty awesome. And I like the community over there. They're all sweethearts. And I get nothing for saying this, just FYI. I just have found them on the internet through Haley Stewart's YouTube channel, and I like them. So the that plaid blue is kind of a midnight blue color. It's got those gray tones. And so I'm adding it, that fulfills two of the requirements, and that was from a Project Life card that I got in Iraq from Nicole Jones 911, and it just matches perfect, and I love it. And she was so sweet and generous to send that to me. And the chipboard I'll use here, it called for like string, or like in the sketch it looked like there were 3 items hanging from string, but I decided to use this chipboard from Modern Miss, and that's a Bow Bunny product, and I use it to emulate string basically. So it's almost like the elements that I put at the bottom are hanging from it, and that fulfills like the swirls, the yellow, and the midnight blue. And so it's kind of a, I found it really cool because you'd be amazed. It says you can pick from all these items, and then you find an item like this and it fulfills more than one requirement. So it's like, yay, I'm being smart and being able to use not only color but also evidence, and it's just kind of cool. It's fun. I know I'm a dork. But hey, it's fun. And that enjoy everyday moments that is perfect for this layout, because it's just an everyday moment, and it was winter, so the background was perfect, and we were at home, and a lot of the elements that it was asking for worked out perfect, and it was just an everyday moment. She just jumped in bed with me and looked up at me and gave me that sweet look. And then I used the wood grain paper. Is just a scrap that I had just really sitting in my pile of scraps, and so that is something that was part of evidence, and I end up making a little bit of a banner here. And the card that I'm placing in the back there is from IOD, and I don't think they're in business anymore. Trying to remember who makes IOD. Creative Imaginations. I don't think they're in business anymore. That's a really old set of product, and it's from the Beloved line. So I loved them when they had product. I used to buy from them all the time. Back when I did a bunch of vintage and distressed layouts like this, I loved IOD. Oh, and there, you can see the package. That's easy. The chair is from Kaiser Craft Collectibles, and that's Charlotte's Dream. And I just thought it was perfect because we were at home, and it just kind of seemed fitting. And I end up pulling that yellow tab off. I just don't like it. Now these stickers are super old. They are by Fancy Pants, and they're called Hopscotch border stickers. And so I did it again. I used plaid and yellow. So I thought that was awesome. And I ended up getting, also I realized after I put this back on, I go, oh my gosh, that blue is a light blue that matches the color scheme, and it's got polka dots, and that's another evidence requirement. So I was on a roll here, people. I felt awesome. Plus, I just now realized there was polka dots in the scallops paper. I didn't even realize that till just now. And that little hint of purple just ties her shirt in so well, and purple is so hard to use. Oh my goodness. I was really excited that she had on a purple shirt and I could use some purple stuff. And purple's so hard to match up, I swear. It's like red. There's so many variations. You can't ever match up the right red with red and purple with purple. I don't know what that's about. I don't think I end up using any of these elements. I was thinking about the clock, but it was just the wrong proportion to go with that chair. I do use the flare, and that says, hold on, let me grab it. Okay, so the flare says, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you will be. And she is my baby, she's my youngest, and so I thought that was very, very fitting. And it also had that midnight color to it. And then I couldn't find a place for any of those Dear Lizzie wood, what do you call them, wood buttons. But I did pull out some of my buttons from my stash, and some of them are very old. Those yellow ones are super old. They're like epoxy buttons. They're not even real buttons. And then I just added a light blue twine to all the buttons, and you'll see me kind of fiddle with those. I thought about moving the flare, but I put it back. And so one of the evidence requirements were buttons, and I pulled them in the color scheme. I couldn't find a place for the making memory pins, and I thought the colors were off, so I didn't want to do that. I do use a bunch of the Daily Flash Pop Drops, and those are in, oh, I didn't write down which line they're in. I apologize. And I start to find other stars to go on it as well. I believe I find some stars and some enamel dots. And that enamel dots is basic gray basics. And then I also had like one random one that didn't go on anything, so I decided to use it. It was just in one of my little bowls on my desk. And the flare is by Ormolu, and that was a Scraptastic exclusive back when I used to get their kits. And so you'll see me wrap it up here. I realized after, I thought I was finished. I'll show you close-ups. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm not finished. I didn't do my testimony. When I do end up adding a couple of other elements at the bottom on the right, and like the year, I used a little label from Webster's Pages and added the year, and it also had a label that had a butterfly on it, and that adds to one of the evidence items. And then I put her initials in a light blue, kind of that same mix between light blue and teal at the bottom, on top of that. And when I put the year, I'm trying to remember where I got that chipboard from. I think it was the Modern Miss as well, and you can see it there. But what I had forgotten was the testimony. So I'm looking through and I'm like, the testimony. I end up pulling a thing from Maya Angelou on Pinterest, and it had 4 wishes on it, and I thought that worked perfect, and it said exactly the right thing. So you'll see me add that, and that finishes the layout, and I'm all done. So I appreciate you watching, and I will talk to you later. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do, please give me a thumbs up so YouTube knows. And also at the end, I'll have information on how you can play along with me on my Facebook page, and the CSI link will be in the description bar below. So that's it. Ta-ta for now. Bye.